Welland Canal has been a vital maritime link, joining Lakes Erie and Ontario for over 150 years. Canal traffic is always busy, but it is in the winter months that a sense of urgency begins to be apparent in the operating crews on both shore and ships. As the weather gets colder, ice begins to form, threatening to choke the locks. It is almost the end of the navigating season, and the danger of a ship getting caught by a quick cold spell and frozen in is becoming a very real one. Great Lakes old-timers remember the 1927 season, when an unexpected freeze trapped 247 ships and stranded over 5,000 sailors. All manner of vessels are making their final movements through the canal, from the most modern motor ships representing ports all over the world to the rapidly diminishing number of older lake steamers. One such vessel, waiting her turn to enter lock number 8, is the Canadian bulk carrier Birchglen. Built in 1927 by the American Shipbuilding Company of Lorain, Ohio, she is a typical example of the traditional Great Lakes design, with a hull 600 feet overall by 60-foot beam. With a maximum loaded draft of 22 feet 2 inches, she is capable of carrying 13,500 tons of cargo. It is December 20th, 1985, and Birchglen is closing out her season with a last passage through the ice. During the 1985 season, she has been on charter, carrying grain from the lakehead at Thunder Bay to Hamilton, Ontario, $6 million worth per trip. The responsibility for operating 8,000 tons of steamer with crew and cargo is in the capable hands of Captain Jack Hartley, a veteran of 41 years on the Great Lakes and Birchglen's master for the last 3 years. This last trip has been a particularly difficult one for officers and men due to weather and ice conditions. Below, in Birchglen's engine room, the normal complement of watch engineer, oiler, and firemen tend their duties, awaiting orders from the bridge. Engineer and oiler oversee the operation of the main engine and all auxiliaries. The fireman controls the oil burners that maintain 200 pounds of steam pressure in the 3 water tube boilers which supply the main engine. Approaching a lock, Captain Hartley brings the steamer to a stop by signaling the engine room. Her engineer, in turn, stops the main engine. While waiting for the lock to clear, Captain Hartley talks about the problems faced by engine room and deck crews the previous day due to the ice conditions.
Well, a little bit. We got down about 2.5 miles off of Colchester Lake there, and about 5 to 6 inches of ice started getting windrows. We stopped dead. Our little 2,300 horsepower engine wouldn't buck through that ice.
I was here in number 3 for a while, or in this lock for a while, so just may as well put that deck in, get this deck finished up again.
Yeah, okay, doke. So we stayed there for about 12 hours until we got help from icebreaker. What the hell was his name? One of the it was the sister ship to the Nia Bay. I can't think of his name now. Bristol Bay. And he broke us through there just as if it was that 4, 5, 6 inches of ice was just like paper. It got piled up with the wind blowing it back and forth and everything and that, and it'd get piled up into what we call windrows and doubling up and maybe tripling up. And when we hit one of those windrows there, she stops. Out of the birch.
Birchglen, Sir Welland will hold you in the raised position. Once Lock 3 starts flooring that J. McWaters, we'll commence the dump at 4 for your turn back at Lock 3, over.
Okie dokie, we'll do. We'll wait here then.
Roger, Birchglen, Sir Welland.
Birchglen's power plant is considered obsolete by today's standards. It served well in its time. The triple expansion reciprocating steam engine was powerful, reliable, and quick to respond to changes in speed and direction. In cases where constant maneuvering is involved, such as going through locks or frequent dockings, there are few engine types that are comparable with the traditional steam plant. For this and many other reasons, it was well liked by ship's crews.
Oh, steamboats are real good. You get, with these here, you get good movements on them and everything there, and that where diesels, they have to stop the engine to go from a head to a stern, where this one there, they can get it down to a certain speed ahead and then just flip it right into a stern. You get your astern darn fast on here.
The sense of urgency on the part of Birchglen's crew is primarily due to the fact that service through the Welland Canal was seriously delayed by an accident in the fall of 1985. The collapse of part of the wall of lock number 7 on November 7th caused a delay of almost a month, and as a result, the canal was kept open as long as possible in an attempt to make up for the lost time. Birchglen and other grain carriers were in a race against time to transport the produce of the 200,000 square mile Ontario grain belt to market before winter closed navigation for the year.
Okay, hold on.
The weather greatly increased the operating problems to both canal and ship's crews as slush ice filled the locks. Air temperatures hovered around 0 degrees, while the water temperature registered just below freezing. Ships making their transit of the canal in the bitter cold faced major delays as the ice began to interfere with the operation of lock gates and other equipment. The decision to close the canal was expected at any time. Many of the problems caused by the weather fell on the shoulders of the first mate and his crew. By tradition, first mates are normally qualified as masters in their own right and can command ships as well. This is the case with Birchglen's mate, Thomas Bates.
He sailed this ship when I went on vacation the last time, for 30 days. He's an old fella like me.
Just clear.
The deck department still practices some seamanship of the type carried over from the days of wooden ships and iron men, while Birchglen's engineers follow their own traditional craft. A wisp of steam from the feedwater heater vent and the water from the condenser overboard discharge hint of the mechanical wonders to be found in Birchglen's engine room. A veteran of many reciprocating engine Great Lakes steamers, Chief Engineer Ed Leahy.
The engine was built, oh my goodness, it's on the plate here. Lorain, Ohio, which, lucky for us, was built along with the next one up the line, which is on a ship that's just being scrapped, and we have almost an infinite source of spare parts off of that ship. The engine is designed to run at 200 pounds. We're metric in Canada, but we'll pardon that one. It turns out 2,500 horsepower. It was designed to work with coal-fired boilers, but it's doing an excellent job since it's been converted. We only have 50 degrees superheat, which to a person used to high-pressure steam would tend to laugh at hearing that, but it's just about right to provide the proper amount of water lubrication to the different cylinders. We also use cylinder oil in the HP and occasionally in the others when we get the boiler chemicals a little bit high and the chemicals come through the line and cause squeaking. That squeaking that you hear right now is not the chemicals, it's just that we have to drop the packing and clean it. Not so long ago, we got into into an awful storm with the boat, and the ballast lines came away from a bulkhead, and our boiler feed water was contaminated by horrid ballast water. We were unaware of this until the boilers were kind of filled up with the poor water, and it showed up on the tests. And well, that caused a cycle of events, eventually costing the squeaking in the packing that you hear.
To visit the Birchglen's engine room is to step back in time to the engineering of another era. Dominating all else is the massive 2,400 horsepower main engine, which has been faithfully pushing the ship along for 58 years. It is a 3-cylinder triple expansion machine with cylinder bores of 24½ inches on the high pressure, 41 inches on the intermediate pressure, and an impressive 65 inches on the low pressure cylinder, all having a stroke of 42 inches. The engine turns a 15-foot diameter cast steel propeller with a pitch of 14 feet 9 inches at 78 RPM. The high-pressure cylinder is fitted with a piston valve, and following Great Lakes practice, this is mounted on the starboard side of the cylinder instead of on the engine center line. Intermediate and low-pressure cylinders are fitted with balanced slide valves, and some of the weight of these is taken by assistant cylinders fitted to the top of the valve stems. The eccentrics for both the high-pressure and low-pressure cylinders are paired at the forward end of the engine. The valves are operated by standard double-bar Stevenson link motion, and reversing is accomplished by a steam ram mounted on the high-pressure engine column. The engine is lubricated by a combination of oil and grease. The crankshaft runs in a light spray of fresh lake water, which has the dual effect of cooling cranks, main bearings, and eccentrics, and of mixing with the lubricants to form an emulsion which aids lubrication. The thrust bearing is of the traditional collar and horseshoe type and shares the lower engine room with no less than 9 steam-driven auxiliaries. Among these are 2 vertical compound engines of about 75 horsepower, driving centrifugal ballast pumps and a number of duplex pumps for assorted services. A vertical engine with a single 9-inch by 9-inch cylinder drives the centrifugal pump, which supplies cooling water to the surface condenser, and like the ballast pump engines, was built by the Morris Machine Works of Baldwinsville, New York. The upper engine room contains the turbine-driven electric generators, condenser hot well, and boiler feed pumps. Vacuum is maintained on the condenser by both an air ejector and a small duplex condensate pump. As Birchglen continues her slow passage through the canal, occasional snow flurries cause minor navigational problems. Now, at lock number 3, 7 hours into the trip through the Welland Canal, Captain Hartley awaits the signal from the lockmaster so that he can proceed.
Where's that white light? I can't see the damn thing. I guess I'm on the place. Oh yeah, the bridge. Come on, Joey.
Birchglen has been dropping over the Niagara Escarpment in a dramatic series of locks. By the time she reaches Lake Ontario, she will have descended a total of 326 feet.
I just hold her right like that, Wayne, yeah.
Is she right into 3, Captain?
I don't see no yellow lights on the board anyways, Tom.
So we probably have to tie up.
Oh, just take it easy. I might have to, I might just slow her down a wee bit.
Okay, fine.
Just take her out to that slant part of the bridge there for now.
The angle there?
Yeah. Because all of a sudden our fanny will be sucking there and we'll be going over to this wall.
The lateral pull of the large right-hand propeller is not a significant problem in open water. However, in the narrow locks, it is a concern for the captain, as he is not eager to damage either his ship or the canal wall. The time in the canal gives deck crews a break from the windy conditions on the lakes and a chance to catch up on topside duties. In the engine room, oiler Brock Edwards makes his half-hourly rounds. Chief Leahy's feelings for up and down engines and the care they are given is quite special.
I've never been on marine diesels, but I have been on turbines and Skinner Uniflows. This up and down steam engine is all open, and you're a living part of the engine when you're on watch. You see everything, and can